My name is Chuck. Looking at my life now, you'd think it was always perfect. I graduated from Berkeley. I'm engaged to my amazing Rosie, who I met there. And I still keep up with my old frat brothers. But if you had asked me about my college experience back when I was a freshman, you would have gotten a very different, much darker answer. This story is the main reason why I was never a super ambitious kid in high school. So the atmosphere at Berkeley was a shock to the system. I was surrounded by these self-proclaimed high achievers who seemed to have their entire lives mapped out. The pressure was intense, and I got swept up in the frenzy of career planning as an 18-year-old. A key part of that was having a strong LinkedIn profile. It was a necessity if you wanted to get noticed in the business world. So, I did what everyone else was doing. I built my profile, listed my skills, and started the desperate search for a summer internship. I was genuinely surprised when a message that wasn't a generic template landed in my inbox. A prestigious business firm had reached out, and the message was clearly written just for me. I must have read it a dozen times before I calmed down enough to write back. After a brief correspondence, I was invited to a first-round interview. The interviewer's name was Armin Slavinsky, a name I will never forget. Naturally, the first thing I did was try to do some research on him. That's when things got weird. I searched LinkedIn, Google, everywhere. There was nothing, no professional footprint, no social media, not a single trace of the guy. For a recruiter at a major firm, that's more than just a preference for privacy. It's practically impossible. It was a huge red flag. But I was a naive freshman, and I wanted the internship. So I pushed my doubts aside. Armand and I agreed on a time, and he gave me the location, a coffee shop in Oakland. This was the second red flag. Why Oakland? Berkeley has countless coffee shops perfect for an interview. It just felt wrong. I mentioned it to my friend Riley the day before, and he was even more suspicious than I was. "Dude, that sounds fishy," he said. I agreed. But I told him it was worth the risk for a position like this. He asked how I was getting there, and when I said I was taking an Uber, he offered to drive. Thank God he did. The next afternoon, Riley picked me up from my dorm. I was a wreck, my nerves completely shot. He dropped me off a block away from the address. I didn't want my interviewer seeing me get dropped off by a friend. "You want me to wait?" he asked. I told him he didn't have to, but he just smirked and pulled a big bag of weed from his glove compartment. "Ivy got time." I walked the final block and then just stopped, completely frozen. The address wasn't a coffee shop. It was a massive, active construction site. The entire building was a skeleton of steel beams and scaffolding. I looked around, and the whole area was desolate. Every other building on the street looked closed or private. I checked the address on my phone again, confirming I was in the right place. The whole block must have been recently demolished, so fast that even Google Maps hadn't caught up. As I was pulling out my phone to call Riley, a deep, booming voice called out from behind me, "Chuck." I whipped around to see an absurdly tall man in an expensive black suit standing next to a matte black Bentley. For a second, I was relieved. He walked toward me, a confused look on his face as he gestured toward the construction site. "Well, this is not what I was expecting," he said, shaking my hand. He seemed just as surprised as I was. "You know what? Let's find someplace else. Get in." He motioned toward the Bentley and walked to the driver's side. "Shotguns, all yours," he called over his shoulder. Excited by the prospect of riding in a Bentley, I walked around the front of the car. As I reached for the passenger door handle, I glanced into the back seat. My heart stopped. It wasn't the beautiful leather interior I expected. Lying flat on the floor, partially obscured by shadows, was a man. In his hand, he was holding something long and metallic. Panic surged through me. This was a trap. I didn't say a word. I just turned and ran faster than I've ever run in my life. I heard Armin scream my name from behind me. but I didn't dare look back. Then came the sound I was dreading, the screech of tires. I risked a quick glance over my shoulder and saw the Bentley turning around, pointing directly at me. I knew I couldn't outrun a car. The street was an endless maze with nowhere to hide. My lungs burned. I reached the next intersection and faced a choice, left or right. My body chose for me. I sprinted right, darting across the street. I had seconds. Then, like a miracle, I saw it. A fire escape on one of the buildings, just low enough to reach. With every ounce of strength I had left, I jumped, my fingers catching the cold metal of the ladder. I've never done a pull-up in my life, but with my life on the line, I found the strength. I hauled myself up and kept climbing. The Bentley whipped around the corner and screeched to a halt on the street directly below me. I couldn't see the driver through the tinted glass, but I knew he was watching me. For what felt like an eternity, the car just sat there, idling. The world was silent except for the thumping in my chest. Then, without warning, the car accelerated down the street, turned left, and disappeared. I couldn't breathe. I fumbled for my phone and called Riley, practically screaming what had happened. I stayed clinging to that fire escape until I saw his car pull up. I scrambled down, got in, and we sped off in dead silence. I refused to talk about it for years. Even with Riley, I tried to block it out, to pretend it never happened. But sometimes, like right now, I can't help but remember every horrifying detail of what could have been the last day of my life. This all happened really recently. I am a first-year student, and my family had just driven me to college to help me move in. It's that classic exciting, nervous day. When we arrived, I found out I was in a Jack and Jill dorm, which means my room and another room share a bathroom. So, I'd be living with 3 other guys. I actually knew one of the guys in the other room from orientation, and we'd gotten along. His roommate doesn't matter for this story, though. This story is about my roommate, Dalmora. I had gotten his socials before Movine, so I tried to get to know him on Instagram. His replies were just dry, one-word answers. On top of that, his profile looked exactly like one of those cringe Discord emoji accounts you see on TikTok Reels. When I finally met him in person, the irony was thick. Looked exactly like a Discord emoji, just with a skinny build. He was pale, around my height, with a thin peach fuzz mustache. I tried to make conversation as we were unpacking. It was even worse than his texts. He was painfully introverted, stuttered a lot, and would do anything to end the conversation as quickly as possible. I was trying to find any common ground, so I asked what kind of music he listens to. He just looked at me blankly and said, "I don't. Music wouldn't fill my cup of emptiness." I just nodded. What do you even say to that? Things got weirder almost immediately. He set up his PS5 and started gaming. It's not the gaming that's weird, it's college, but it was how he games. He makes these strange, low grunting noises. He violently shakes his entire body, hissing and laughing while he spams the controller buttons. He also has this habit of shoving his feet into his desk cabinet, and sometimes, during his shakes, he'll grab his feet and pull them hard toward his body. He's constantly whispering to himself or to his online friends. And he usually repeats what he whispered twice, in a giggling tone. The dude stays in the room 247. I'm not sure I've ever seen him do homework. His constant movements and noises alone were freaking me out when I was just trying to sleep. But then it got worse. About a week into the semester, I went out with some new friends from my building. I came back pretty late, around 1 a.m. The room was dark, and Dalmora looked like he was asleep in his bed. I kept quiet, went to my cabinet, which was right next to my bed, and I suddenly felt the hairs on my arms stand up. It was that cold, primal feeling that you're being watched. I turned around. Dalmora was staring right at me, not just looking, staring. And he had this slight, chilling grin on his face. I yelped, "Holy fuck, Dalmora, why are you looking at me like that?" He just laughed it off. a weird little cackle, and said, "Dark time." Then he just turned around to face the wall. It creeped me out so badly I could barely sleep. And that wasn't a one-time thing. It happened 3 more times. I went to my RA and tried to move out, but my college said they had no other dorms open. I was stuck with Damora for the whole semester. About 3 months passed. I just learned to live with the weirdness. I came back from my English class, and the second I opened the door, Damora shot up from his desk in a panic. "Why are you back so early?" he demanded. This was weird on its own. Because my English class had actually run late. "I am not early," I said. "Do you need the room to yourself or something?" He immediately declined, striking some bizarre, cringy pose that looked like it was from an anime. "You shouldn't be worried at all," he said. His statement just made me more uncomfortable. That's when I noticed a small box on his desk. At the same time, I realized my iPhone charger and my desk scissors were missing. I asked Damora if he'd seen them. "Oh, yeah, I have them," he said, way too casually. He handed me the scissors, but as he was handing me the iPhone charger, the long cable snagged on the box and knocked it over, spilling its contents right at my feet. My heart sank. A sticky note with my name written on it fell out. Alongside it was a see-through case. Inside it, I saw eyelashes, a pair of glasses I didn't recognize, a pair of my own missing socks, and a disposable photo of me that I'd taken as a joke with friends weeks ago. He saw me looking and scrambled to collect everything off the floor, babbling, trying to explain the meaning of it. I just snapped. "Get out," I yelled. "Get out of here right now." He left immediately. I texted my RA, telling him everything. He told me he was out for the night, but to show him the box tomorrow as physical evidence. And they'd finally have a real reason to kick Damora out. I took the box and hid it deep within my laundry bin. Under all my clothes, I felt rattled, disgusted, and unsafe in my own room. An hour later, Damora came back. I just pointed at his bed. "Stay on your side, and do not talk to me." Not another word was spoken between us. I tried to stay awake. I was terrified he'd try to find the box. But it had been a long day, and I finally passed out around 2 a.m. When I woke up, the first thing I noticed was the quiet. Damora was gone. It felt good, for 1 second, to have him out of the room. But then I remembered the box. I leapt out of bed and went to my laundry bin. I dug through the clothes. It was gone. He must have come back while I was asleep, gone through my things, and taken it. I panicked. Not long after, my RA was knocking. I let him in and told him the whole story about the box, the contents, and how Damora stole it back. He said he believed me, but without the box, he couldn't do anything. It was just my word against his. I felt like I was losing my mind. About 5 hours later, Damora came back, acting like nothing had happened. I confronted him immediately. "What did you do with the box?" He just played dumb. "What box?" "I don't know what you're talking about." I kept pressuring him, but he just kept denying it. I couldn't stand to even be in the same room with him. It's the second semester now, and yes, I am still dorming with Damora. He gave me this weird, scripted apology, promising he would never do it again, and that if he does, he'll let me know and move out immediately. Like that makes any sense. I took his word for it because I had no other choice. But I stay out of the room as much as I possibly can. He still creeps me out. The worst part is that I can't sleep some nights. I can't focus during the day. I just keep thinking about what was in that box. Why did he steal my photo? Why my socks? What were the glasses for? The part that leaves me scared every time I think about it is what those eyelashes were doing in there, and why he labeled that box with my name. This happened back in 2019, during my freshman year of college. I've graduated now, but I still think about it, especially around Halloween. I went to a Big Ten school, and during Halloween week, the entire campus went nuts. There were frat parties every single day, bars made you dress up, and the whole scene was just wild. Lots of booze, lots of cops, and lots of memories. This specific event happened on the Saturday of that week. Our football team had a huge win earlier that day. So my friends and I were going to this one fraternity, pretty far off campus, to celebrate. We only knew about it because my friend Alexandra was dating a guy on the team. We got to the frat house around 11 p.m., and things were already crazy. Everyone was getting drunk really fast. The music was blasting, and we were all doing these different chants. Booing the school we just beat. I was taking shots, dancing with my friends, and just having a blast. At some point, my phone died. This is critical. I gave it to Alexandra to put in her purse for safekeeping. We were all pretty intoxicated by the time I told my friends I had to go to the bathroom. "Wait for me by the DJ booth," I yelled. I was in the bathroom when I heard some frat brother in the house just scream "cops" at the top of his lungs. Instantly, the music died and the house just exploded into chaos. People were screaming, shoving, and scrambling to get out any way they could. I sprinted out of the frat house and was immediately blinded by flashing red and blue lights. There were multiple cop cars, and officers were everywhere. People were sprinting in all directions. Some cops were already talking to the frat brothers, while others were trying to catch underage kids. In my drunken, panic state, I realized I didn't have my phone. I started yelling for my friends, for Alexandra, all while trying to avoid the cops. But in that crowd, I knew I wasn't going to find them. I figured I had no choice but to start making my way home. Even though I wasn't entirely sure which way that was, this frat was far off campus, in a different area from all the others. So, I started my trek home. It was absolutely freezing, even though it was only October. It was like 37 degrees that night. I was still heavily tipsy, but the cold was starting to sober me up just enough to be conscious of my surroundings. After walking for what felt like forever, I knew I needed a break to warm up and hopefully get my bearings. I saw a large, dark building up ahead that looked like one of the academic buildings. I approached it, tried the door, and it opened. I stepped inside. It was pretty dark in there, but a few exit signs at different doors illuminated a decent portion of the inside. I stood there for about 5 minutes, just soaking in the warmth, but as I started to sober up a little more, I realized this wasn't an academic building. I was in some kind of warehouse. The eerie feeling around me made me nervous. I went back to the door I came in through. I tried to open it. A pit sank in my stomach. It was locked. How? How could it have been open from the outside, but locked from the inside? I started to panic. I saw another door near an exit sign and pushed it open, expecting it to lead me outside. It didn't. It led to another, smaller part of the building. This room was even creepier. It was illuminated by a single, low red light. There was a loud buzzing noise coming from some machine in the corner. I could see chains hanging from the ceiling, and there was steam rising from the floor. I shit you not. It was like a scene straight out of a horror movie. I went to turn around and go back through the door. It was also locked behind me. Sheer panic set through me. I was trapped. I was trying not to break down. I just leaned up against the wall, slid down to the floor, and started silently crying. That's when I heard it. A heavy door slammed shut somewhere else in the building, then footsteps. I instantly went silent. My eyes widened. I heard another door shut, and then more footsteps. They were getting closer to my area. They were big, heavy footsteps. I saw another door across the small, red room. As quietly as I possibly could, I opened it and snuck through. I was back in the main warehouse, trying to wade through the hanging chains and the steam. I heard the door to the red room open right behind me. The footsteps were approaching fast. My fight or flight kicked in. I saw a window. With all my might, I kicked it. It took 5 hard kicks with my foot before the glass finally shattered. As it broke, I heard the feet running towards me. I had maybe 10 seconds to spare. I leapt out the window. I didn't even realize that this side of the building had a high drop. I fell like 10 feet out of the window, landing hard on top of 2 big recycling bins. I pushed myself off, shocked by the impact, and looked up at the shattered window. There was no one in the frame. I dashed underneath some pine trees a few feet away, hiding myself in the shadows. When I looked back up, that's when I saw a figure. A person was looking out the broken window, scanning in all directions, looking for me. My whole body went numb in fear. As quietly as I could, I snuck across the street and then I ran. I ran for my life, as fast as I could, for I don't know how long, until I finally recognized the side of campus my dorm was on. I got back to my dorm, and my friends were all waiting for me outside. Panicked and freaking out, they told me I had been gone for almost 4 hours. The next day, I told them my experience. Their mouths just hung open. After some discussion, I discovered that the building I was in hadn't been used in several years. That PID in my stomach hit me again. Whoever was in that building wasn't a cop. It wasn't night security. This was some random person, and they were after me. It still makes me sick to this day. If I hadn't been more quiet, or thought as quickly as I did, I could be dead.